Hey guys, my name's Gloria and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're enjoying the spooky season so far. Apologies for the wet hair and no makeup and oil pajama bottoms, but it's Sunday, tomorrow's bank holiday, I'm having a beer and it's a week from Halloween, so let's get excited. So following on from yesterday's video, I have another couple of books that I got, sort of took recommendations from a booktuber that I watch quite a lot, and of course I think everyone watches quite a lot. So it's Murs from Harpies In The Trees. If you're not following her, you should be. And we have a lot in common with the type of things that we like. So she mainly focuses on paranormal stuff, and I have quite a penchant for ghosts and paranormal stuff as well, although I read all kinds of things. So there's a lot of books that she reviews that I do really want to read, but these are the few that kind of stuck out to me as something new, something interesting, and something that I might want to read. So the books that I'm going to be talking about today are Naomi's Room by Jonathan Aycliffe, Penpal by Dathan Auerbach, and No One Gets Out Alive by Adam Nevill. So these are all quite different. They all have some kind of supernatural weirdness to them. So let's get right into it. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Penpal by Dathan Auerbach. This, I believe, was started as a series of creepypastas or stories that he was posting online, and eventually it got so popular that he decided to publish them. I had not heard of them until they were published like this and until I saw them on her channel, and it's kind of difficult to describe the book. So it's telling the story, or it's a man telling the story of some strange things that happened to him as a child, and it goes between, it time jumps a lot, and it's not linear either, it's not chronological, so it can get a little bit confusing. In the beginning as well, I think I was quite confused because the language that was used never really changed between when he was a toddler and when he was a teenager pretty much, so I was always a little bit confused as to, are we back in kindergarten or are we older than that now? But it tells the story of this young boy who lives alone with his mother. He has a best friend and they play a lot in the woods, and so I think I'm just going to read this because I think it explains it better than I could. So in Penpal, a man investigates the seemingly unrelated, bizarre, tragic and horrific occurrences of his childhood in an attempt to finally understand them. Beginning with only fragments of his earliest years, you'll follow the narrator as he discovers that these strange and horrible events are actually part of a single, terrifying story that has shaped the entirety of his life and the lives of those around him. If you've ever stayed in the woods just a little too long after dark, if you've ever had the feeling that someone or something was trying to hurt you, if you remember the first friend you ever made and how strong that bond was, then Penpal is a story that you won't soon forget, despite how you might try. So yeah, I think that basically explains it a lot better than I was trying to do. The writing is alright, it was fine except for the sort of narrative tones that sort of confused me, given his age and stuff. The events are rather strange, and for the majority of the book they do really seem unconnected, and it's very difficult to try and piece together what's happening and why they're all connected together, but there is something sinister happening. You get the sense that perhaps his mother is aware of it, she knows something about it, but this is a very precocious young boy. He's sneaking out of the house to go play in the woods at night. Him and his friend take up this this task that they've devised where they're trying to map the woods between both of their houses, which gets more and more difficult the further they get in and the deeper they get into the forest. It is quite unsettling, and given how young he is and some of the things that happen, it is scary, but because there is always this undercurrent of sort of confusion, sort of being in the dark. I don't think it really had the effect on me that it could have had, because even at the end I was sort of still trying to go over things, trying to think how they connected, and I think it might be because the writer originally had them written as separate, apparently separate short stories that he then sort of blended into one cohesive story, and I think maybe the blending could have gone a little bit better because it still felt a little bit wobbly to me. They didn't all fit together as well as they could have. So I think Penpal was definitely different, definitely something I wasn't expecting, something unique that I haven't read like that before, but it didn't totally hit the mark for me. There's definitely some creepy things in there and some things that I did enjoy, but I don't think it really hit what I was aiming for, but it was still good. If you're looking for something different, something with a bit of mystery and something with not the usual sort of scares and ghosts and monsters in it, you should definitely try Penpal by Dathan Auerbach. Next up, I'm going to talk about No One Gets Out Alive by Adam Nevill. Now, the only other Adam Nevill that I've read was The Ritual, and I really didn't like it. I have a series that I'm doing where I talk about movies that were better than the books they're based on, and I included The Ritual in that. I'll link it up above because the movie is fantastic, I love it, but the book just didn't do it for me. But while I was reading it, I knew that I still could enjoy Neville's writing and didn't particularly like where the story went or even how the characters interacted, but I knew that I would definitely read Neville's writing again. And when I saw Murray's review of No One Gets Out Alive, it seemed to strike a chord with me, and I thought maybe this could be the one that I like. So the story is about a young woman who is down on her luck. She's just lost her job, she's broken up with a boyfriend, and she needs to find somewhere to live on the last 100 or so quid that she has. So she goes to look at this horrible little dingy room with a very bizarre landlord called Knacker. She ends up giving him a deposit for the room for the month, and the first 2/3 of the story, I guess, are just about the 9 days that she spends in that room. She almost immediately realizes something is not right here. It's increasingly more insidious, uncomfortable. Knacker isn't right, his weird cousin who comes along isn't right, and there's something not right about this house and about the things that she sees and the sounds that she hears. She's told that she's there completely alone, but not from the evidence that she's seen. And the latter part of the book is a couple of years later when she's no longer living there, and it's sort of the aftermath of that. But this book, No One Gets Out Alive, I think is actually fantastic. It was terrifying to me for a lot of reasons. It really spoke to my own background. I've been someone who has lived in complete poverty, and seeing this character trying to count out coins to be able to buy a sandwich and also buy this thing, I know exactly what that's like. And being sort of stuck in this horrible situation where you've already given money for something and you know that you should leave and it's dangerous, but you just don't have that luxury at that moment, and trying to ask people for help, but they're reluctant to help, and it's just, yeah. And then having this predatory landlord, predatory for her money, and just trying to manipulate her so that he doesn't have to give any money back, and so that she won't leave as well, and trying to act constantly like he's doing her favors when really he's just fucking up intentionally. And also just the idea of being a lone young woman who's in this place alone, this really dark, dingy, horrible place where something's not right, and constantly trying to stand up for yourself, but realizing that as soon as you do, this landlord could completely turn on you and just do horrible, horrible things. So it was a real creeper. At the entire time I was so compelled with the story, but I was so uncomfortable. I was so tense. I was just constantly waiting for something really bad to happen. It's quite a long book. It's over 600 pages. And those first, I think she only stays there for 9 days, but those first 9 days, they're spread out for at least 400 pages, I think. But the pacing is actually so well done that it never felt like it was dragging. It constantly felt, and I think it worked well for the character as well, because she feels like she's been there a lot longer than she has, and you feel like she's been there a lot longer than she has, and then the next chapter heading is day 3, and it's like you feel just as exhausted as she is and just as eager to get out of this situation, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. The ending of the book was a little bit slower. It wasn't as constantly tense and emotion filled, but it was still definitely dark, and it showed the change that this really short stay took on the character, and you really do feel for her in the end and feel for the person that she's become because of it. So this has completely turned around any negative feelings I had about Adam Nevill before. I really loved this book. It was terrifying, and I equally loved and hated every second of it, because I never want anyone to be in that situation that she was in. And it's a mixture of physical danger and a mixture of ghostly paranormal danger as well. There's definitely something weird about the house. You do get an explanation at the end, and things do sort of all tie in together, but it's really sinister, really dark, and yeah, I would also recommend this as Murs has, because it is a great book. And finally, the last book that I want to talk about is called Naomi's Room by Jonathan Aycliffe. So I just read the beginning of this, and I found out that Jonathan Aycliffe is actually from Ireland. He is from Belfast, and I believe we actually went to the same university. He did a lot more studying than I did, because apparently he went to a couple of different universities, but you know, he was there for a little bit, so that counts. It begins with the father. He's in the house, and it's in the present time, and he's thinking back on a horrible time in his life when his daughter went missing. He took her shopping for Christmas, and she got lost in the crowds, and it's following the story of him and his wife trying to figure out what happened to her, trying to find her. She does get found eventually, but she's no longer alive, and she did die in some horrible circumstances. So the story switches from him in the present time, where he's in the house by himself, and back to when sort of the aftermath of him and his wife trying to move on, trying to figure out what happened, why it happened, and this all comes off the back of something not being right about their house. Their daughter, before she went missing, talked about children in the house and different people she saw around the house, and it turns out that she may have actually seen them, and it wasn't just an imaginary friend or anything. And there's definitely a paranormal background to this. It's very well written. I really love the writing, and I'd love to read more Jonathan Aycliffe. The story it's a little bit different than you would really expect from something like this, and there is sort of a twist and an ending that I certainly was not expecting. It really goes to much darker places than you're expecting it to go. You have to feel for the parents in this, for the little girl who died, but it's just a horrible situation that they don't really know how to handle. They don't know how to act around each other anymore, and then you obviously have the police and the journalists and stuff trying to get at them, trying to get information from them and whatnot. It is different, it's definitely different, and it ends up in a place that I was not expecting for a story like this. A really difficult, uncomfortable place as well, but if this is a dark book and it deals with really dark things, so I wouldn't go into it if you're squeamish about child deaths or anything like that, but it incorporates the history of the house and the history of the sort of paranormal goings on of the house as well, and it links everything up really well. So I'm really glad I read it. I'm really glad that I read all of the books today, Penpal, No One Gets Out Alive, and Naomi's Room. Penpal wasn't fantastic for me, but it was still something different, still something something to really engage with. I think No One Gets Out Alive was definitely my favourite, but Naomi's Room was pretty high up there as well. I think it was pretty good, and I'm definitely going to search out more Jonathan Aycliffe. So that is my video for today. You should absolutely go and check out Harpies In The Trees channel, and she has a Patreon now if you want to support her work and all of the great videos that she does. I wish I had the skills to do anything but a book review, but there you go. So thank you so much for watching. I should be back tomorrow with another video. Thank you so much for everyone who subscribed and liked and commented in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to enjoy my beer and I shall see you tomorrow.